There he is. Oh,
Oh,
hey, hello, Teddy.
hi,
Hi.
gorgeous.
Would you like to say hello to our guest? It is, it is Niki French. Hello, Niki.
Hi.
So, now, I think Teddy might be a little bit alarmed about the title of your book. The title of your book is Stop Walking Your Dog. And I think to Teddy, that sounds like a horrific proposition, but you're going to explain to us why you wrote such a book.
Yes, it's not all dogs. I have to say, my dog has just started kicking off in the front room. So apologies. I'm hoping he's going to settle down. Um, yeah, so it's definitely not saying that no one should walk their dog ever. Absolutely not. Oh, there we go. But what I found with some of the clients that I've been working with is if they had a dog that really struggled on walks, whether it was noise reactivity, being sensitive and nervous around other dogs, or being worried about strangers, then constantly putting them in the situation that they didn't really have the skills for, it was just creating unnecessary stress, and they were getting to practice the reactions that they were doing. And I ended up with a few clients where I think it was about the second client. I said, you need to stop walking your dog because every walk was stressful for the dog and the human. And that wasn't productive. That really wasn't productive. So yes, it's not all dogs ever. It's some dogs some of the time. But that wasn't a very catchy title.
No, of course. And, I think the impact of that is so huge for somebody who is struggling and who has a dog who's struggling to be told, actually, just stop walking your dog. It's,
Yeah.
it's, it's permission. And it feels like some sort of like you're committing sacrilege to say such a thing. But it's so clear that there are times when that really is a good idea. So give us an example of situations in which dogs are so stressed that it's best to just actually stay home.
Yeah. So I think definitely dog reactivity and human reactivity are the two that I see the most, or noise fears. I've worked with some people that um, just the sound of a bird scarer going off in the distance or a truck in the distance could be enough to just send them into, absolute panic. So sort of reactivity, aggressive displays, which are, mostly coming from fear and keep away sort of signals that they're giving out. So where the dogs are really stressed or worried about people, dogs, noises, something in the environment, that for me is the biggest thing that we need to take them out of that situation. There's an element that you can train within a situation, but it generally has to be at such a distance and relatively controllable, which isn't always possible. So that's probably the number one thing. Um, it can also be simple things like weather related. If you've got a dog that doesn't like wet weather and they don't want to go for a walk, you still need to have them physically and mentally kept active. It could be, it's far too cold for them, or it's too hot to walk them safely. How many times have we seen people slogging around the pavements at midday and it's like, 25 degrees centigrade plus, and you're like, oh God, you shouldn't have your dog out. Do things at home with them instead. It could be that the individual's not able to go out. There might be some mental or physical condition that at that point of the time, in that time, that they're not able to go out, and they could be riddled with guilt that they can't do things with their dog. So there's so many different situations where definitely walking less, or even taking a break from walks, having other things to do instead, can be, hugely beneficial.
I'll tell you one thing that always disturbs me is when I see very elderly dogs who are clearly struggling to walk, lingering in with almost a vast difference between them and the humans that they are with, because they actually are finding it so hard to walk.
Yeah.
And surely there is another way of getting a dog out, um, to enjoy the air and everything that they might still enjoy,
Mm.
without asking them to do the same walk that they would have done when they were younger and fitter.
Yeah. And I think there's two sides to cover there. One is, could you take them in the car somewhere and just take them out to sit on a rug with a chew, just take in those smells, do a little bit of pottering, a little bit of sniffing, bit of watching the world go by, whatever. Obviously there's things like the buggies that you can take them out in if they're happy to go out in that kind of way. But I think the other thing is it's really hard for people, I don't think people are doing it to be cruel. It's coming from kindness of, well, this is what I should do. This is what the dog wants to do. You have a dog. This is what you do. You walk them 2 to 3 times a day. Like it's really in our, like, that's what a dog is about. A lot of people get a dog because they want to get themselves out of the door, and the dog will make them do that. So yeah, I think there's two sides there. Is like, definitely do let the dog still experience the things that they want to, but there are ways of doing it without having that slow waddle that quite clearly is uncomfortable at best, and probably worse. It is painful, but I think people just think, oh, it's just a sign they're getting older, you know. But yeah, take them out in some other way, and then do gentle, low impact activities that use their brain. Obviously, lots of scent work is really useful. Balance those things out, but don't just think, right, they need to go around the block.
And they do. I mean, if you watch your dog will tell you whether or not he or she is enjoying the walk. I stopped, on the whole, I stopped pavement walks when Teddy was about 1.5, because he said to me, "Do you know what? This is really boring. I don't want to do this." So we shifted to doing things indoors for that walk, and then of course there's his big walk in which he's running around off lead, in woodland or fields. That is his thing. He loves that. But in the last year, he's rediscovered the joy of a pavement walk. And so I think it was on a day when I just couldn't get in the car and take him out further. And so I thought, okay, well, let's just see if he's changed his mind, because there are lots of grass verges around here. And he's actually decided, okay, it's not my favorite, but yeah, this is good. I like this. So I think they go through phases as to what they like as well, don't they?
And I think that, there's probably nothing quite as intense on the P-mail inbox in terms of like people's walls and the bushes and the corners and the letterboxes and the lamp boxes, a lamp post and things like that. So you've obviously got natural sniffing, but there's nothing quite as intense as all the other places that all the dogs have been, and that I can see. Bodhi does enjoy that. What we found, Bodhi's a rescue dog, so we got him at 8 months old, and he was very fizzy, very frantic, very overexcitable. And we started off by giving him 2 walks a day. We'd mix it up, some road walks, some going to a park, but he would be pogoing up and down and be pulling and want to see every dog and see every person. Like, he just didn't know what to do with himself. So fairly quickly, I don't know if it was self-preservation on my part, I was finding it so stressful. I was like, right, we're just not, I hadn't even thought of the book at that point. But I realized it just wasn't serving him well. And as soon as we cut that down to 1 walk a day with other little bits of exercise and stimulation and games throughout the day, he just, like, his energy levels just kind of went, oh, like his whole system just went, oh, thank goodness. Like, he couldn't cope with it. But yeah, definitely mixing it up, and I do like sometimes a bit of a fast road walk for Bodhi. It helps keep his nails down. You know, he's not great at the husbandry stuff. So nail clippers are not on, not on the table yet. We do nail scratching board for the front nails, and the back paws with a little bit of pavement walking is enough. He's heavy enough to keep the nails under control. So I think mixing it up is definitely a good thing. But as you say, like if we can really tune into our dog, they tell us probably everything we need to know. Like if our eyes are open and if we're genuinely watching them, then they're absolutely going to tell us what they need.
I was just thinking about what you said there at the top, where you said the intensity of the smells may well be greater along pavement walks because of all the done. And I'm just thinking back, and I wonder now whether that actually might have been just too stressful for Teddy at that point in his life. Because if you think about that, that's a lot of dogs taking in all of that information, all of that. And maybe there was something there that made him more uncomfortable because I'll tell you why it suddenly occurred to me. Because it was roughly around that age that he started disliking seeing other dogs on the street, fine in the woods, but on the street across the road, particularly from his home, he would get very defensive. So yes, you've just given me that thought there.
Might have just been too much. I guess it's if, I'm a bit of an introvert and I'm quite shy. And the bigger the group of people that I'm exposed to, what talking to one with somebody or talking to anyone if they've got a dog, like that's good. But once you start getting into big numbers, I find it incredibly overwhelming. It's almost like I don't want to talk to anyone. I can't even go and have a small conversation because of the enormity of lots and lots of people. I find that overwhelming. So maybe it's something similar. I don't know.
Well, one could never accuse Teddy of being shy. I think social butterfly is probably a better description. However, we do have a park across the street, which we don't really use. But it does mean that we get a huge variety of dogs coming through, on our street. And maybe, this is his home. And maybe it was just too much to have too many all in the area. Even he wasn't seeing them, he was certainly smelling them.
And I
So
think, hey, I'm not a scent expert, but I assume that smells that are in an urban environment are much more trapped, much more intensified. Whereas if you're out into the woods, you're out into park, you've got less pollution bringing down all the scent particles, the trees and the grasses and all the plants are doing their job of helping to dissipate, and it stands to reason that it's much more like a pressure cooker of stuff in an urban space.
actually, yes, because concrete, does absorb scent. It really does. So, I mean, we only need to just sometimes, just on the entrance to the woods where we go, where the gates are, and there's wood there, of course, because it's the gate. And I can smell how many dogs have been through
Yeah,
there. So let alone Teddy.
yeah.
I think, yes, I know that because in our garden, even though there's concrete on it and paving slabs, and that area gets washed down all the time. And even so, even in summer, even so, I can smell where Teddy's been emptying his bladder. So, yeah, concrete absolutely does absorb. So we've talked about shy dogs. We've talked about the element of, just general health not being, great, and a dog not being up to doing the walks that he had enjoyed before. Why else might a dog find walks challenging?
I think one that we often don't think about is actually puppies. So when people get puppies, and they're in that initial, 24 hours and they're zonked out and they're thinking, oh, this is easy. And then all of a sudden they're settled in and everything goes crazy. And you've got this probably very energetic, maybe struggling to settle, struggle to sleep, very bitey, sharp teeth. They're trying to do all of the things. And I think there's this perception of we're just desperate to get them out walking, because if we can get them out walking, it will tire them out and then they will sleep more. And I find the opposite is kind of true. It can just make the puppies even more overstimulated. And, puppies don't know how to walk on a lead. That's a life skill that takes, a while to teach them. And so walks can just be this very chaotic affair with the puppies zigzagging all over the place and the humans getting frustrated, going, I don't understand. This walk is for you. Why are you not walking with me? But like they don't have those skills yet. So I think, even when people have got the puppy and they're desperate to go out and get them, exercise so that they're tired, actually, that's probably the worst way to help them settle. I think that's how puppies can learn to get very switched on and then find it harder and harder to settle, and they can become very action prompty in the house. And, so I think puppies is something that's not really thought about in that sense. But I don't, yes, you want to get them out and you want to expose them to noises and sights and sounds, but you can do it in a small and controlled way that doesn't mean you need to be taking them out to try and get them exhausted, because it has the opposite effect, I find.
I was just remembering the first year of walking with Teddy. So walking on the lead was an absolute nightmare, because he just basically we ran everywhere because I wasn't going to. I felt that it was wrong, to try to stop him all the time. So we had a deal. We would run when I felt he needed to, because he was trying to sniff everything all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the way back, we would walk, as I would call it, sensibly, because he needed to explore and do everything together. I lost weight. I can tell you, I lost weight in those first 8 months. But it was just, that was the way he was. And, one of the things that still makes me laugh was when they say to you, if they're pulling, stop. They, I don't know if they ever met Teddy. Yeah, we stopped, and then he would do a meerkat impression and get very frustrated. And so I thought, no, we're not doing this. I'm not turning this into a power struggle. And if I needed to walk sensibly, then I confess I picked him up because that was better than getting into a power struggle and allowing him to pull. So
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people are worried that, oh, if I pick my dog up, that's wrong. But for me, if they're not getting to practice pulling, that's huge, because the more they do it, the better they get at it. So yeah, pick them up or like trot with them, put them in the car, take them to the park. If they pull all the way to the park because they're excited and they want to get to the park, well, if it might not seem the most sustainable way, but can you drive them there and then drive them back, so they're just not getting to practice the bit that you don't want them to practice, which is that repeated pulling? Because I think they can then get into their head, that's what a walk looks like. Like, I'm in my harness and I'm pulling. That's a walk. Like, that's what they think it is. That they don't understand anything different, and that doesn't feel bad to them. I think that can feel quite rewarding. You don't have to be a husky to be like, yes, let's go.
That's the thing, isn't it? So yes, I would pick him up if I needed to, because I knew we weren't going to get anywhere that day with any sense. And or I would run with him. But what I wasn't going to do was have the pulling. When he started cocking his leg, then it all changed. He started to get more sensible. So yes, I recognize this. I recognize all of this frustration that we, the humans, can feel when we're being embarrassed. Talk about embarrassment.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about with the human end of the lead, isn't there? It's like, you touched on it at the start that, the title of the book it's that relief, that giving people permission, that often people's gut was telling them this is, this can't be right. And I think embarrassment is often at the heart of that. If you've got a dog, no matter how small, that is barking and lunging every time your neighbor goes past, or they see a dog, or they see somebody in a high vis vest or something like that, their dog may look like they want to eat that person or that dog, when in fact we know, and the guardian probably knows that their dog is just scared about that thing, but it comes out looking very ferocious, and people are can feel quite isolated, I think, quite judged, and a lot of people aren't that forgiving if you have that dog. Bodhi doesn't come across as aggressive, but a 32-kilo lurcher cross collie pogoing up and down on the lead going row 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 row, like some people will be like, oh god. Like, I mean, I felt those emotions of embarrassment, especially if I had my dog trainer jacket on. So yeah, embarrassment, I think, is massive for people. And I think there's a lot more dogs that struggle in a busy urban environment, or just a busy modern world, let's say, than don't. But I think it's fairly easy. Like, if you have a dog that struggles, you probably go out of your way to stay out of the way of other people, trying to find the quieter spaces to go to, or the quieter routes, the times of day and things like that. So you probably don't see the other dogs that are struggling. So it might appear that everyone else seems to have a really well-behaved, laid-back dog, and you've got the one that's like, oh, why are they like that, or what did I do? So yeah, I think embarrassment is huge. And also I think there's a lot of guilt tied in with this kind of conversation. It can be, is it something that I've done that's made my dog like this? Is it, is it just how they are? If they are not taking them for a walk because the dog struggled too much, that feeling of guilt of like, this is not, I'm being cruel to my dog by not putting them in this situation. But I think the opposite is true. If your dog is struggling, you're showing them a lot of love and understanding by not putting them in that situation, sort of helping people to let go of that guilt. I think is huge.
So what can people do? So you were saying, okay, if the dog isn't enjoying the walks, and so therefore it's probably best to not do that, what should they do? What can they do at home?
Yeah, there is so many different games and activities that you can do, and it doesn't all have to be at home. But I mean, let's start off by thinking of things that you can do at home. There's lots of training games that you can do, and depending on what your dog needs, if you can find some games that really help to build up the skills that they're naturally lacking, it might be that they need more confidence. It might be that they just need to learn to be calmer more of the time. It might be that they need to be more relaxed around novel things. Novelty can really cause some dogs worry. It can be about being able to cope with frustration. Some dogs on the lead are just, they're frustrated. They can't go where they want. They can't walk as fast as they want, or they feel constricted in some way. But there are ways that you can play games in a really fun and friendly way where you can really help them to build up, all the different sort of skills. And there's lots of different skills that, their personality might need. So you can play specific games to help that. There's all the wonderful, there's so many simple little scent games. Scent work doesn't need to be complicated. It could just be hiding a toy around the house or around the garden and getting them to find it, and having a little game of tug when they find it. Scattering some treats around for them to find, a little treasure hunt, lots of nice sniffing activities. There's some great trick training that are just very very relationship boosting. Like they don't have to have a really deep purpose, but if they're taught in a really positive way, it can be fun for the dog. It can be nice physical and mental enrichment for them, and really bonding for you. But it could also be going out to, hiring a field. Or if you can't, you don't have any fields that you can hire, or you don't have the budget, do you have any friends that have a reasonable sized garden that you could walk to or drive to, just to say, and they say they don't have a dog, or your dog is comfortable with that dog, and you have a little play date around their garden. Or you can just have say to that person, can I just borrow your garden? Can I bring my dog around so that they can get some different kind of sniffing, different kind of environments? It might be going to a deserted beach, or somewhere where your dog can swim, or it might be physio or hydro, or some kind of complementary therapies. It could be doing some free shaping. It could be ACE free work. I mean, the list is just endless of the things that you can do with a dog. And I do know some of my clients that had working breeds, working collies, working labs, spaniels, and with a dog that really struggled, they have stopped walking their dog completely for, between 1 and 4 months, like literally not been outside the front door unless it was for an appointment for something. And the transformation that you can get from a dog that's just like, just on all the time, when they just go, oh, and then they learn to do other things, like it can have a massive turnaround. But for some dogs, it might just be a case of, cutting down from 2 to 3 walks, just a one walk, or a shorter walk, or a couple of shorter walks. And it might be that your walk, let's put it in inverted commas, is 5, 10, 15 minutes of games indoors or in the garden. And then you go out for a short walk, short sniffy walk. And then you come back and you do a few more games. And by then the dog is probably ready for a massive sleep. The walk doesn't have to be out of the door, around the block for an hour, and come back. It can be the whole picture of activities.
One of the things that I love about doing activities with Teddy is that I've seen how it just encourages him to focus better on me. So his ability to concentrate increases, and he's more likely to pay attention to me when I'm talking to him, purely because he's got used to that focus. And particularly games where he has to watch what I'm doing. The three games that we play with one of his favorite toys, where's Parrot. And so he has to watch where I'm putting Parrot, and then we do something else, and I say to him, well, where's Parrot? And he has to remember where Parrot is. And I increase the number of activities between each time that I ask him. But what that's done, because Teddy is so excitable, that lots of dogs are like this. They want to anticipate what you're going to ask them to do, because they can't wait to, be rewarded, and this was different because it forced him to slow down and think. And I found that to be an amazing game to teach him, to listen and focus, and not just anticipate what's coming.
And there's so much variety. Some dogs are very good at learning verbal cues. Some dogs are very good at anything where you're giving them physical cues. Some dogs are great at finding stuff. Some like a little bit more boisterousness. Like whatever it is, there is something for them. And I think, don't just try something and think, oh, my dog doesn't like it. There's this massive palette of things that you can try. And I mean, we didn't even talk about sports. I know some people that have got reactive dogs that just do brilliantly, like canicross, man trailing, all of those kind of things. when they are on a task, and if you're working with a trainer or a coach that's used to dealing with dogs that have struggles around people or dogs, for instance, once they learn that they've got a job to do, you know, it can get them into, it can really open up their world. So they may never go for a walk, but they might be able to do man trailing through an industrial estate with people and things like that, when, because they're like, I'm working, not bothered about all of you. But if, you know, in a different walk situation, they wouldn't be able to cope with that. So it's definitely about finding what, you know, what your dog loves. Simple thing, like we put a sand pit in our garden. Like Bodhi loves to dig. And what a workout that is. I mean, he's exhausted after, you know, we'll just pop a toy in there and he'll be digging with all four paws and he'll come up with sand all over his nose. And he's had the best time ever. Saves my garden. And so, you know, it
know,
can be simple things.
it's so true, isn't it? You know, the joys of a sand pit. I so many dogs that love to dig.
Mm.
That would be their dream. Teddy's dream is to have a lawn, not for digging, but for rolling, because he loves to roll in
Yes.
grass. But
Yeah, Bodhi loves to roll.
it's just a lovely thing, isn't it, to discover what they like and then play to that. And you know, you were talking about these wonderful activities. Well, a lot of trainers will do them one to one. We used to have one to one agility because Teddy just found other dogs too exciting and was a bit disruptive, shall we say, as
Yes.
a result of his
That, that
enthusiasm.
that was me with Bodhi. I tried that. I tried beginner's agility, and after about 4 sessions, I was like, this isn't good for either of us.
It really wasn't. But one to one, he was brilliant. Loved it. He would tell us when he wanted a rest, and then he would tell us when he was ready to go. And
Yeah.
that so this is the joy of being given permission to think laterally, is that we end up with an incredible variety that is available to our dogs. So the next question then is that it forever for the rest of their lives? Or is this going to actually help them to have the confidence they need to go out into the world?
I think it very much depends on the dog. I think most of the time it is about giving them breathing space and helping them build skills. So that might be weeks, that might be months. But then it's not just about stopping walks, doing something different, going back to walks as they were, because that generally doesn't work. It is about the skills that you've been growing at home. So where you've been working on training games to, say, grow confidence, if your dog is so worried as soon as they get over the threshold, or even when you get the harness out, you know, they run away. If they're so worried that they couldn't even just step out of the front door without their body language changing and them telling you that they weren't ready, you can basically build the space in which they play the games that they enjoy. So if it's a game that they, you know, say they're putting their front paws up on an object and they love playing it in the house and they love playing it in the garden, can you play it in the hallway near the front door? Or is that enough for them to be like, I'm not sure? And I've seen that. Or it can be, you know, have the lead on, but you might play it with the door open and you just do it just outside of the door. And are they comfortable? You know, you may be able to, you know, go for a little walk up and down the pavement and play some games and then come back in. So it's about building it up in a way that they go, I'm good with this. And always, you know, checking in with them. Is there the body language that they were giving you when they're in a happy, relaxed state at home? Do they look the same when they're out, you know, out and about somewhere different? So yeah, no, it's definitely not just like this is it forever. So far, I haven't worked with any dogs where it's like never, they're never going out the front door again. But definitely building it up in specific ways that's quite tailored to the dog. And yeah, just sort of opening up their world in a gentle way, but using all the skills that they have now learnt so that you can see, right, are they good with this? Are they really good with this?
So, what about dogs that, as we were talking about, are just incredibly enthusiastic and what they need is skills to know how to interact in a polite way with other dogs, and or just how to calm down, how to control themselves. What would you suggest to help them?
I think thinking about the walk from when you put your coffee cup in the kitchen and you close your laptop, don't think about it, right, I'm out the front door, because often the dogs can get so excited. They know, and we're not just talking picking up the lead and the harness and you putting your walking shoes on. They know that they're so good at predicting all those series of events. Yeah, you're doing that thing, you haven't got your lipstick on, or you've got those dodgy old trousers on, or all of those kind of things. They are putting all of that together that says walk is coming. So often by the time they've got their harness on and you've got your shoes on, they're already like this. So working with a lot of that kind of stuff to make that much more meaningless. So it might be that you do put your dog walking shoes on and their harness on, and then sit down and watch TV and do some boundary games, or do some work or do whatever. So breaking things down to sort of try and get them out of the door in a calmer state, I would say, because if they're already hyped up by the time you've got into the car or got to the park, then you're setting yourselves up and then them up to really struggle. I think using a dog's nose is so important. If you can get them mooching, sniffing is so naturally calming, naturally tiring. It's kind of the opposite of the ball wanging community. If your dog's not, some dogs I think are so wired that they really struggle to sniff. Like, it's just that their nose isn't working, because there's especially sort of sight hounds and working dogs are very driven by what they can see and movement, and they can find it hard to get their nose working. So having something tasty, I love using things like freeze-dried beef, because it's nice and clean and it crumbles, and you can just, when they're not looking, you can scatter a few bits into the grass, and then you can be like, oh, what's down there? And then they're like, oh, hang on a minute, it's like steak. And once their nose is down, it seems to sort of kick in. So when I use that a lot with Bodhi to get him sniffing in environments where otherwise he would be scanning the park and go, right, 500 meters, I can see the shape of a dog over there. Right, oh, look at it over there. He would be that, or used to be that. Whereas now I need to do a lot less, because he's used to going to a park and doing a lot of sniffing and just being a dog, like looking more like a dog in the wild, of mooching, speeding up a bit, walking a bit, but some dogs, I think you have to kind of guide them in that direction to learn to be a dog. I think we need to help them.
Thinking back, I mean, Teddy could not properly be trusted off lead until he was about 18 months. Because the world was just so exciting and he wanted to experience it all at once.
Yeah.
At speed. So we had a long lead that I'd just let trail on the ground and grab it when I needed to. But one of the things that really was so helpful, there were two things. Number one, walking with friends. So if he had his doggy friends with him, then actually I started to take the lead off on those walks when he was about 13 months. So that was great. But the other thing which really helped was hiding things for him to find whilst out on walks. And I used to watch him and hide. If we were on the beach, I'd hide sprats under rocks and things and say, oh, find it. Oh, off he goes. He'd be coming back to find whatever it was. And that really did make a difference. Just scattering little bits for him. Unfortunately, now I can only do that kind of thing if there's somebody else with me, because the result of that is that he watches me. So I can't hide anything anymore. So the only way
So I do with that, I kind of do the fake put things down.
Yeah,
I'll bend down, I'll bend down, I'll bend down, I'll bend down, and he won't know if some of those are fake, and you'll see where he's checking out. He's clocked all the spaces where I think I put something, but that I won't always have something there. So I kind of like.
right. That's a great idea. But yes, he has found his lead for real on, I think, 3 separate occasions where I've genuinely dropped it and lost it. And he's found it for me because of our games, lead finding games where I would drop his lead and say, walk on a bit and say, oh, where's Teddy's lead? Oh no, where's Teddy's lead? And he'd go and find it. And on 3 occasions, that has saved the day. So it's these are fun things to do that help us to bond. But more importantly, um, what you're pointing out is that these are the things that are going to help them to be confident and 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 that is a win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So that they can go out and enjoy the spaces that they find enjoyable. And there will be some spaces that are right for them, but it's definitely not a one size fits all. And every dog should do this. That's what they all need. It can be very different from that. Yeah, you talked about the long line. So Bodhi came to us at 8 months old, and he was absolute chaos. So we obviously had him on a long line where we felt it was safe. We also let it trail. I would just sort of step on it and just sort of break it gently with my foot. We had that for a good 2 years. I was thinking I'm never ever going to be shot of these muddy, cold, wet. Yes, there's biothane and there's all the different ones, but yeah, I thought I was never going to be free of it. But we
I
are pretty
the
much. If anyone is looking too exciting, Bodhi just goes back on the lead, so he's mostly off lead. So sometimes you've just got to persevere with some things.
And when you were talking about thinking, I did think, I wonder if I'm ever going to get rid of this lead. And the trailing, of course, it would get muddy. I can remember having mud on my hair and not knowing how it got there from this lead. So just, yeah, those. I'm kind of glad that that's done. But that perseverance. Well, I I just want to remind everyone that the book that we are discussing is called Stop Walking Your Dog, and in it there are amazingly wonderful suggestions to help you if you do indeed need to stop walking your dog. Niki, thank you so much for your book and your time.
You're very welcome. And yeah, if anybody wants to get involved, I have Don't Walk Your Dog Day, which is the 2nd of April each year. So depending on when people are listening to this, it's just to get conversations going. And it was very much around um, trying to help people have conversations with people that didn't understand. So it's to get people talking about things that you might do other than walking your dog. So we have it's a nationally recognized awareness day to get people to think about why they might not walk their dog and what they could do instead. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I'll be putting a link to your book in the description box. If people want to join this event or find you, how do they do this?
Yeah, just go to the website. All the links are there. Puptalk.co.uk is super easy. Most of the socials, I'm Pup Talk 101.
Wonderful. That's marvelous. I shall be putting a link to all of that in the description box. Thank you so much, Niki.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching. Now, next time, we're going to be talking about frustration. Until then, goodbye.